Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Cory and Taylor with the Meals team at eXp Realty. Today, we're going to give you an overview on some market activity that we've seen here lately in January, starting off the year in 2023. Taylor, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm pretty good. Taylor, before we jump into some of the numbers, why don't you tell me what you've been seeing with market activity, buyer activity, just so far through January and this first little bit of February? What kind of activity are you seeing, and what's going on with buyers and sellers out there?
Yeah, so personally, I've had a handful of buyers that I've been talking to for literally a year plus, and just kind of periodically checking in with them. And before they weren't quite ready to be active in their home search, they're just kind of browsing the market, and they've kind of been seeing, at least in the past couple weeks, interest rates slightly coming down. And I think it's kind of given them the confidence to jump back into their home search because I have a handful of buyers right now that weren't quite ready 6 months ago, but now are ready to start their search, and a couple of them have gotten under contract. So
Mhm.
it seems like a lot of the buyers are kind of ready to jump back in after the first of the year.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, I've experienced that as well, and it seems like, and obviously we'll get into these numbers, but it seems like inventory levels have also kind of affected that with more options to choose from for buyers on the market. But
Yeah.
I've kind of noticed the same thing. Listings are taking a little bit longer to sell. Buyers have a few more options with interest rates where they are now compared to where they were kind of at their peak last year. It's kind of motivating for people to get back in the market. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so we can take a look at these slides. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right, I got to start this over. Here we go. All right, I was on the wrong slide. Um, so we'll go ahead and start off with the median, with the number of units sold. And for this presentation, we're going to pretty much focus on Grayson County. Of course, we've got data for most of North Texas here. If you are watching this and you have questions about a specific county, neighborhood, or your own personal home, Taylor and I would love to help you out, answer any questions about what the market's doing or what your home could sell for. So we're mostly going to focus on Grayson County. But when you look at January of 2022 in Grayson County, 180 units sold, and then January of 2023, 137 units sold. So there's almost a 24% decrease in the number of units sold. And then,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Taylor, you're going to say something there?
I was just going to say, we've kind of shied away from this because during COVID, the past few years, it's just been a crazy market throughout the entire year. Where before that, normally there would kind of be patterns with the season. So normally things would slow down around the fall to winter time. People are doing a lot of things with their family during the holidays. So it usually tends to slow down during that time. And then you have the spring season that comes where a lot of buyers are jumping back into the market. And then summer's pretty busy as well before the new school year starts. So we've kind of shied away from that the past couple of years, but we're seeing that finally kind of come back around to where the market kind of mimics how the seasons go and kind of what patterns we see with buying and selling during those times.
Yeah, seasonality has definitely come back in the real estate market, that's for sure. Taylor, why don't you talk a little bit about number of units sold here? And this is the 3 month trend that we have to kind of show from November, December, and January.
So yeah, if you look at Grayson County, November there was 158 units sold total. Jumped to December was 202, and then January was 137. So from the last month to January, we're down about 32%. So again, it's kind of up and down, but we're moving into a little bit different market than we've been seeing. But it seems to be, like we said, kind of following that seasonality change, reflected with the units sold.
Um, Taylor, why don't you start us off on median sales price?
So for Grayson County in January of last year, we were at 272, 750. And then January of this year was 275. So we still have a slight increase in median sales price. And that's kind of one of those things we talked about. I know a lot of people were hoping to see huge price decreases across the board. And a lot of people have said, I'm waiting for the market to crash, or I'm waiting for prices to come down so I can time the market and jump in then. Well, as you see, even with, more inventory on the market and homes sitting quite a bit longer, and even though there's not as much competition as far as, a house hits the market and a day later there's 15 offers and you're in a multiple offer situation, we're still seeing some price increases across the board, or, sales prices. Now, like you said earlier, buyers are getting a little bit more confidence because there's things sitting and they have more options, but we're not seeing, major price decreases yet.
Right. And I will point out, like, if you look at Collin County, their median sales price is up almost 10% compared to January of last year. And some of these, some of these hotter markets in North Dallas are going to see that. And like Taylor said, yes, interest rates are going up. Yes, listings are sitting on the market a little bit longer, but it's still competitive in certain price points in certain markets. So that's just something to be aware of depending on where you're shopping. And then here,
Speaking of that, real quick, I think we've all talked about this on the team in our meetings and whatnot, but especially in that price range in Grayson County of like anything 250 and under, we have still seen multiple offers on properties like that. So if they're priced correctly in the right location, they're going to get, a lot of traction and people, eyes on the properties. So we've still seen a few multiple offer situations in Grayson County in those certain price points.
absolutely. And one of the things, back during the COVID market, whenever interest rates were at all-time low and buyer demand was at an all-time high, one of the things we would see is, as a seller, you wouldn't have to do much to get your house ready to sell. Like, you could just put it on the market and you knew that buyers were going to make offers. Now in this market, buyers are the listings that are moving with multiple offers or going maybe above asking price or selling really quickly are the ones that are move-in ready. They're updated, they're well kept, they're clean listings, and they're marketed properly by professionals who know how to market a listing. And so that is one of the differentiators in this market compared to last year is how you market your listing, the condition and the pricing are all very, very crucial whenever it comes to how quick that listing is going to move. So, and then going over the median sales price trend over the past couple of months in Grayson County, we have been seeing, so from probably about June of last year to November, December, we were seeing a 1 to 2% decrease coming off of like June and July per month. And then talking more about the seasonality from December into January, which there weren't a ton of sales. I mean, y'all saw that with the number of sales being down. The median sales price in Grayson County was $275, and that's down 6.3% compared to December. Now, once again, I'll point out Collin County was up 3.65%, which that kind of, I'm not, only time can tell what the market's going to do, but a lot of people were saying Collin County was one of the most overinflated markets in the country, and that prices were going to be coming down drastically in January and February. We'll see what happens in February, but I just wanted to point that out, that prices are still up in January in Collin County.
Well, and even looking at Grayson County's numbers, even though there has been a slight decrease, a lot of that is we're coming down from the, very heavy market we were in with multiple offers and, so many people getting well over list price and that competition. So we're kind of, especially at the end of November, we're coming down to January from seeing that. So like we said, now a lot of properties aren't going, 30, 40, 50 plus thousand over list price like we were seeing previously. So that's kind of reflected in those numbers in the last 3 months.
Right, exactly. All right, and let's talk about months of inventory, Taylor.
Okay, so for Grayson County, there's 804 active listings. Sold units, we looked at 137 in January. So we're right at 5.9 months of inventory. And previously we were at 4.2. And we've talked about this before, where a 6 months of inventory is considered a balanced market. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market, and anything more than 6 months is a buyer's market. So we're kind of right there at a balanced market. And we talked about this, a few months ago, how that's kind of what we were trying to get back to, was a balanced market. So it seems like we're kind of finally there. So that is, we talked about that in many videos back, how we're like, one day we may get back to a balanced market. Well,
Yeah.
based off the stats, like that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody remembers, like when we were doing these market updates, when we would look at this, months of inventory in Collin County, it was, I think, in most of the pandemic COVID times during those 2 or 3, 2.5 years, whatever it was always at or below 1 month of inventory. Grayson County was, right around a month to 2 months, usually closer to a month. So these are pretty drastic changes, especially if you look in Cook and Fannin County. I mean, those are what we would call a buyer's market right now. So it's pretty crazy to see how drastically all this has changed in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know what the months of inventory is meaning, is like at one point, like you said, Collin County had like 0.8 of a month on inventory. So what that means, if there were no other homes listed in that time period, there would be no inventory. So it kind of shows you, the higher that number is and the closer it is to 6, how much more of a balance there is. And, there's still buyer demand, but at least now there's more inventory to help with that.
Right, exactly. All right, days on market. So this is another big change that we've seen. And this is obviously days on market, number of sales, all of that can be an indicator of buyer demand in the market. So if you look at Grayson County, in November, we were 53 days on market, December, 62 days on market, and then now in January, 77 days on market. And what that means is from the time a property is listed till the time it goes under contract is 77 days, which is 15 days longer than it was in in December, not January 2022, but in December, it's 15 days longer. So that is an indicator that buyer demand is a little bit less than what it has been. And obviously with higher interest rates and more options to choose from, you're going to see those numbers go up a little bit. So all across North Texas, 10 days longer when you look at the averages there. All right, Taylor, what about close price to list price ratio?
So looking at Grayson County in November of last year, we were at 95.2% of the list price. December was 94.1, and then January 93.2. So again, that's kind of showing how closer to the list price homes are selling for versus way over list price, like we were seeing, in the past 6 months. So it kind of goes to show you that things are cooling off a little bit and we're more at that balanced market, but they're, sellers are still getting pretty close to what they're listing at.
And one thing I'll add about this, you kind of have to look at all of this with a grain of salt. So like when you're looking at, okay, we're getting 93.2% of list price. We're going off of comps that sold, people are pricing their listings off of comps that sold in May, June, July of one of the hottest markets in history. And so whenever they were selling for those high prices in May, June, and July, those prices were run up really high. Everybody was going over asking price. And so when you look at the list price to close price ratio being lower, it's really an indication that people are asking a lot more for their properties and buyers are getting them to come down. So it's all, you kind of have to look at it with perspective. It's all with a grain of salt, what those numbers are doing. So I just wanted to point that out. Yes, we're getting 93.2% of list price instead of 107 or 108% of list price. But whenever you look at those median sales prices, they're still really close to what they were in previous months and year over year. All right, expired listings, and I'll talk about this one real quick. In Grayson County, on average, expired listings are going to be about the same, and you'll see December with a huge spike, and this is across all markets. Most listing agents will set their listings to expire at the end of December, and so that's why you always see at the end of the year a huge fall off of listings that don't sell. But what an expired listing is somebody put their house on the market, it didn't sell successfully, and that listing came off the market. So You know, we had 300 in Grayson County in November, 534. That's that big run up that we see at the end of every year. And then 276 listings that had probably sat on the market for anywhere from 6 months to a year and didn't sell. So that's really all we have as far as stats and numbers in the market. Taylor, is there anything you want to add in terms of, you know, what people can do if they're looking to buy or sell in this market to be more successful?
Yeah, so a lot of things that I've had my buyers doing, especially for first-time home buyers, because a lot of people, you know, younger people that are looking to buy their first home or whatever the case may be, are always worried about the funds to close and that they maybe haven't saved up enough to put their down payment and their closing costs. And that also plays into, you know, everyone, you know, myth of having to put 20% down on a home, where that's not necessarily true anymore. You can get away with 3 to 5% down, depending, you know, on what loan program you're on. But a lot of my clients have been utilizing asking the seller for help with closing costs. So we've had people get on down payment assistant grants and then ask the seller for the remaining of their closing costs, or if they do have some money saved up, just ask for something to cover those closing costs. So a lot of people just don't know that that's an option that you can do. Another thing they've been doing is using those seller concessions to buy down their interest rate a little bit. So if they're worried about their monthly payment with that higher rate interest rate, buying that rate down a little bit and making it more manageable and in your price range. So there's a lot of different, you know, tactics you can use with your agent and, you know, go over what exactly would work best for you. But there are a lot of great options out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say from the buyer standpoint, when we're talking about options, is if you're looking at new construction right now, I have seen builders offering some of the best incentives, some of the highest buyer paid closing cost credits from their marketing budget, or their lender is offering something if you go with their preferred lender. I've seen some crazy incentives to go with new construction right now. So if you're thinking about a brand new home, also be sure and reach out to Taylor and I so we can talk to you about what those incentives are, how they affect you, your payment, what you can get upgraded in the house, all that good stuff, because they're looking to move inventory and they're willing to make deals on it right now. So, and then also if you're thinking about selling your house, you may be looking at these numbers thinking, well, it looks like the market's trending down. Right now, the most important thing whenever it comes to selling your house is making sure that you price it appropriately based on recent comps, recent sold properties, so that we can ensure that we're going to get maximum exposure on your listing with an attractive price in today's market. Also, make sure if you're not working with us, you definitely want to make sure that you're working with somebody who knows how to market your property correctly, because that's going to ultimately lead to getting more money for your listing. Anyways, if you have questions about what your home could sell for, or what's going on in the market, or if you want to talk to Taylor about some of those buyer programs or what kind of incentives you can get from new build, she's the person to talk to. Taylor, you have anything else to add before we hop off of this?
Other than that, again, if anybody wants a copy of these slides showing the differences in the market, just let us know.
Oh yeah, I forgot to add that. Thank you. All right. Thanks for checking out this video, guys. I hope y'all are doing well, and I will talk to you later.